All right, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and greetings once again from Universiti Malaya and Living Lab Secretariat, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It is our pleasure to welcome all of you to today's second webinar of the series entitled University as a SDG Living Lab for Water Management, the Experience of Water Warriors, co-hosted by Sustainability and Living Lab Secretariat and Living Lab Water Warriors in conjunction with the annual celebration of World Nature Conservation Day on 28 July. All right. Please allow me to introduce briefly our speaker of the day. Associate Professor Dr. Zida Fatima Muhammad is the Principal Academic Researcher of Water Warriors and Associate Professor at the Department of Science and Technology Studies, Faculty of Science, Based on her background in environmental management and science and technology policy, Dr. Zida has a keen interest in understanding how the development of S&T can be steered towards environmental sustainability. She was also the former coordinator of Environmental Secretariat between the years 2009 to 2014, where she has supported a number of grassroots environmental initiatives on campus. She was also one of the architects of the Living Lab program. Okay, without further ado, I would like to hand over to our speaker of the day, Associate Professor Dr. Zida Fatima Muhammad. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Fazli. Okay, can you see me?
Yes, very clear.
Yeah? Okay, all right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, and a good morning to everyone. Thank you, Fazli, for the kind introduction and our sincere appreciation to the Sustainability and Living Lab Secretariat for kindly organizing this webinar. And I would like to welcome all the audience that are joining us today. I can see some familiar faces. I cannot name one by one, but thank you so much for joining us today, not only from but also from outside of from Malaysia and outside of Malaysia. So thank you for sharing your precious Thursday with us today. Greetings from all of us in Water Warriors. So I'm not the only one here. The whole team is here, and you will have the opportunity to interact with them later on, because there will be a session with the other team members. But first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Zida Muhammad, and I am the Principal Academic Coordinator for Water Warriors. And I'm also Associate Professor at the Faculty of Science. And my background, my early academic background is in ecology and environmental management, but I went on to do my PhD in science and technology policy. So I have a very much a more generic and, sort of like a broader perspective in looking into the issue of sustainable development. And I'm much more of the generalist in the team. And that's why I, sort of provide an overview of, what we are doing in Water Warriors. So thank you for joining us. I will now upload my presentation slides. Yeah. Oh, where is it? Jaya. There's a bit of a problem here. I'm not sure why I can't upload the... Fazli, can I show?
All right. Okay, I will cease.
Okay, I don't know why it doesn't... I'm not
no worries, I will cease.
Okay. All right. So this is my this is the slides, and the title of our presentation today is Universities as a SDG Living Lab for Water Management: The Experience of Water Warriors. So basically, what I'm going to share with you today is I will do the main presentation where I will present the history of water warriors as a grassroots movement, and then looking into the current role, our current role as a living lab, and then framing ourselves as a SDG lab, and then finally share a bit of our activities based on the hardware-software approach. After my presentation, there will be a brief sharing by our advisor, Prof. Halim Sulaiman, and our other academic members, Rina, Fatia, and also Aisha. And finally, we will have a Q&A session with our young founders. So Water Warriors is quite unique in the sense that we are a youth-led living lab, and the academic staff is actually supporting the youth in developing the living lab. So we're quite unique in that way. So I would encourage you to interact with Affan and Asiah during the Q&A session, because I'm sure they have very interesting experience to share. Okay, now I will begin with the history of Water Warriors. A lot of people ask, how did we begin? So not many people actually know this. We were founded by two recent graduates, and at the time, Affan Nasaruddin, which is known as Affan more fondly. I think a lot of people out there knows him. So he was from the Department of Geology, Faculty of Science, and Siti Nurasiah Kade, fondly known as Asiah. She was from the Faculty of Engineering, and they recently graduated in 2013, and with the support from two academic researchers, which was myself and Dr. Nobumitsu Sakai. So we knew each other from our research activities under the Japan-Malaysia University Consortium on Asian-based integrated watershed management. I can see Prof. Nick here. So she was the person who was coordinating this consortium. So at the time, Dr. Sakai and I was a part of this group of researchers who were inspired by the consortium's so-called hardware approach that was trying to look into the localization of watershed management based on Asian-based shared values. And we had a first-hand experience in seeing how this was being implemented in Lake Biwa, Japan. So we were intrigued on how far the same approach can be applied in the Malaysian context, and we have actually published our work on this in the Journal of Hydrology. So next, Fazli, where are you now? Sorry, yeah. Okay, right. So Affan and Asiah happened to be our research assistants for the project, and after we came back from a trip to Japan, Fazli, can you go back? Oh, okay, next. And next. So Affan and Asiah happened to be our research assistants for the project, and after we came back from a trip to Japan, I can still remember Affan asking me, Doctor, how can we talk about integrated watershed management at the national and international level if we can't even solve the problem in our own campus? So he was at the time talking about the Varsity Lake that was quite in a dire condition at the time in 2013. So that question honestly was an eye-opener personally for me as a lecturer and academic researcher. And I think, fellow academics out there, I think you also face the same thing as well when you teach in class and students would ask you, the campus is not so sustainable, but we are teaching about sustainability. So there's an existential moment there. So indeed in 2013, next. So indeed in 2013, the Varsity Lake was not in a very good shape. It was a water body that was located at the heart of the campus, but was very much neglected at the time. And people were not visiting it anymore, and it was treated more like a storm water impoundment. So a lot of trash goes in it. The lake was stagnant, it was not flowing. And we as a campus community, at the time didn't even ask why this is so. So as a result, the water quality became quite bad. If you can see, there was even blue-green algae at some parts of the lake. And at one point, there was a mass fish kill, and finally the lake had to be closed down from recreational activities. So due to this, Affan and Asiah, with support from academics like myself and Dr. Sakai, decided to set up the Water Warriors with the initial mission to save the Tasik Varsity. And the video you saw just now, at the earlier part of the webinar, was produced during that time of our establishment. Okay, next. So inspired by the hardware approach, we took it upon ourselves to be the sustainability advocacy group to convince the campus community to save the lake. And after a year of grassroots advocacy, we managed to convince the university and key stakeholders to take concrete strategic action in prioritizing the lake as a natural and cultural heritage for UM. So the project was codenamed Project Revival. So you can see here the can here, Revive. So it goes to symbolize that that moment. So this time, rather than just using, so if you look at most development units in universities, they usually take a very narrow approach of just looking at the technology. Very much what can we do immediately using a much more technical or hardware approach. But what we managed to convince the university at that time is to combine the technical approach with a more holistic hardware and software approach. So that means winning the heart of the community, but also creating solutions on the ground. Next. So to make the story short, Project Revival was quite successful, and by 2015, Alhamdulillah, we managed to bring the varsity lake back to life. So you can see, Affan and Asiah here, on the kayak, and this is a picture of our Deputy Vice Chancellor at the time, Prof. Rafiq. So he was the first one to swim in the lake after years. The community was not able to swim in the lake, so it was a very symbolic gesture. So there was, really a hardware sort of symbolism there. Next. So that was how we started, and not many, a lot of people who have engaged with us do not know that part of the story. But from a grassroots movement, now we are known as a campus living lab. And now I'm going to go to the next part of the presentation on how we have been upgraded to a living lab. So what is a living lab? So this, if you have not seen the webinar, the first webinar, I think it would be good I would encourage you to watch that, because the first webinar actually provides, a broader picture of the UM campus sustainability initiative. And Prof. Sumiani, the head of the Secretariat, actually provides an in-depth, description about what the Living Lab is. So basically, a campus living lab means universities conducting research to solve real-life solutions by using the campus as a testing ground for implementation before bringing it out to society. So when we go back to what Affan was telling me earlier during during the period of the movement, when he was asking, the lake is not, we don't do anything about the lake, but we are talking about what is happening outside. So this is one initiative by University of Malaya to try to walk the talk in trying to improve the campus before, proposing broader solutions to the external community. So when we started as a grassroots movement, we were not the only grassroots movement. We also have the Zero Waste campaign, which was led by Prof. Sumiani together with another student, which was Jaren. And then we have the Rimba project as well, being led by Dr. Sugu with his members of, with a number of students. So there were like 3 grassroots movements in UM at the time, and by using the model of these grassroots movement, the higher management actually created the Living Lab program and also created the Living Lab grant program. So what they have done is that in 2015, this was launched, and progressively we have more living labs, and by 2019, we already have 49 living labs looking at different areas of the Eco Campus core areas. So Water Warriors looks into water management, and there are other living labs that looks into other areas of the greening area that is of priority to University of Malaya. Next. As we were upgraded into a living lab, the founders were officially appointed as the project officer, and we also expanded, our focus in terms of our activities. So in the beginning, we only look into the resource part of water management. We were interested in lake management, but after a while, we expanded, our focus in looking at all the water bodies on campus, and especially the two rivers that flows within the campus, Sungai Anak Air Batu and Sungai Pantai. And as we grow as well, we were requested by the higher management to look into the demand side of water management, looking into how we can reduce water consumption and increase efficiency of water use. So our responsibility actually expanded as we evolve throughout the years. And that is why we are now a living lab for integrated water management, and we try to look at things from an integrated approach. And we started the experiment within the campus first, and in the past 3 years, we started to engage with the external community. Next. So overall, it has been 7 years journey for the Water Warriors, and the family of Water Warriors has also expanded. So when we became the Living Lab, Affan and Asiah became the project officer. So just imagine they have been with for almost, I think if minus the grassroots period, probably about six years. And then we have also expanded in terms of new academic members as well. So in addition to myself and Dr. Sakai during the first year as a Living Lab, we were very thankful that we have Prof. Halim Sulaiman, who was willing to be our advisor, even though he was going to retire soon, since none of the members at the time were, hello? Did somebody say something?
No.
No, yeah? Okay. So Prof. Halim was, he was going to retire soon, but he was willing to be our advisor. And since none of the members at the time were real water experts, it was so important to have someone who has vast experience in the field to guide us. And during the process, we also gained a number of academic members. Associate Professor Dr. Rina from the Faculty of Architecture and Built Environment, who deals with water landscape architecture. Then we have Dr. Fatia Muhammad Zuki from the Faculty of Engineering, who looks into the technical or engineering aspects of water management. And finally, the latest addition is Dr. Aisha Abdullah, who is interested in using our experience to improve STEM education in schools. Unfortunately, Dr. Sakai has left in 2016. He did his postdoc here at the time, and he has since moved to the US. We also like to highlight, Amin, he was our research assistant between 2015 to 2016. He has since left but the passion that I think for a living lab, it's important to have people who are passionate about the issue. So he still helps us even though he has left and try to contribute where he can. And another important aspect of a living lab is this partnership with the development unit, with the entity that is responsible with the development in the campus. So we have very close partnership with several development unit partners. This includes civil engineer Encik Zainuddin and Puan Diana, mechanical engineer Encik Ramzi, and chief architect Puan Sharifah. So they have been absolutely wonderful collaborators, and we wouldn't be able to do what we do without their support. So that is one of the things that, you know, sort of help a living lab to grow if you have very close partnership with the development unit of the campus. Next. So overall, it has been a 7 years journey for Water Warriors. So 2 years as a grassroots movement before we became a living lab. And when we became a living lab, the first 2 years was focused on just what we were passionate about in the beginning, which is looking into lake conservation. But as we grow in the next 3 years, we expanded our focus into integrated watershed management. And we were also, I think, once you win the trust of the development unit or the higher management of the university, we were also roped in to be involved in long-term water-related projects undertaken by the university under at the time, the 11th Malaysian Plan. So that was when the collaboration became more organic and we became closer. And then, and I guess, you know, when as a living lab, you try to evolve as you go along. So we started with the internal community, and when we started doing external engagement as we go in the 4th year, and then in the 5th year, we start to look into income generation activities as well. And one of the aspect that I would like to probably share here is that, you know, as a living lab grows bigger, there's definitely a challenge when the campus, the activities is beyond what the research grant is able to support. So you do have to think creatively on how you can survive in the long term. So next. So by now, thankfully, we do have a dedicated office, which we share with the Rimba Project Living Lab. I don't know whether you have seen this, you know, this article that has gone viral recently about an upcycled old bus, a bus. So this bus has been, you know, upcycled as a part of our sustainability initiative, and we are actually turning it into a living space in which we are renting it out as a part of our income generation initiative. So, our challenge now is how do we want to, you know, make use of this space as an environmental education for our environmental education activity. Next. So there's indeed a lot of challenges as you grow as a living lab, but if you take the risk to grow, there are meaningful achievements that a living lab can aspire to. In the case of Water Warriors, we were consistently motivated by the encouragement and acknowledgement that we receive every year. In terms of SDG, in 2017, we were shortlisted among as the 20 over 300 projects that has been endorsed as an SDG lab by International Research Network on Sustainability Science called The Future Earth. So in 2013, we were invited to give a presentation about how Water Warriors is actually contributing to the SDG as an SDG lab. So that was the idea on why we make this presentation in, you know, trying to put the context of our work in terms of SDG. And more recently this year, we have been selected by the Majlis Bandar Petaling Jaya, a nearby local authority, as a SDG champion for SDG 14, Life Below Water. So you can talk to our founders later about the details of this as they are leading the team on this effort. So we are also contributing to the UI GreenMetric World University Ranking. So we have been helping since 2013, but in the past 2 years, we have actually achieved 100% in terms of, you know, the type of the scoring that we achieve under the UI And UM was ranked 34th in the UI GreenMetrics, and how we achieved the 100% score was due to this different criteria: water conservation program, water recycling program, the use of water efficient appliances, and treated water consumed. We do not know really how we got. I mean, we just contribute, data to the Secretariat of the UI GreenMetrics, and somehow it was considered as a good achievement. So we are quite happy to see that what we have done has contributed to this sort of achievement. Next. Okay, and another thing that we would like to share as well for those who are interested to do, to have this, long-term development of a living lab in their campus, is to highlight that as a sustainability movement and a living lab, you've got to be resilient as well, going through the institutional evolution of the university in supporting sustainability efforts. So we have gone through 4 vice chancellors, and there are various changes in terms of the institutional umbrella in which we belong to. So probably you will face that challenge as well. You just got to be, agile in terms of, navigating the different changes. So we started being under the umbrella of the UMCAS Environmental Secretariat in the beginning. And then when UMCAS became it was upgraded into a UMCAS Community and Sustainability Center. So things evolve as well. And then UMCAS was then given the mandate by the university to focus just on community engagement, external community engagement. So we, as a campus sustainability entity, we are looking at internal community engagement. So we were put under the Sustainability Science Research Cluster for a while, but that actually created this new idea about creating a living lab. So we were upgraded into a living lab when we were placed under the Sustainability Science Research Entity. And now we are a bit more integrated in the sense that we are under the umbrella of the Sustainability and Living Labs Secretariat. So before this, the name was also different. It was a Eco Campus Living Lab, but now it has been upgraded into Sustainability and Living Lab Secretariat. So there's a lot of institutional evolution, and I think if you are facing that as well in your university, just try to go on, and actually by going through by facing the different institutional challenge, you may be creative to create new solutions as well. So next. So that is how we are as a living lab, but how do we frame ourselves as an SDG lab? So as an SDG lab, you just can't look into water, but you have to look into, the broader perspective on how the water issue is actually related to other sustainability issues. First of all, what is the SDG? For those who are not familiar with it, SDG refers to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, a global footprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. Overall, there are 17 goals that combines the environmental, social, and economic pillar of sustainable development. And for each of the goals, there are specific targets and indicators. Next. So how do we see Water Warriors as an SDG Living Lab? So we actually base ourselves in terms of how we see University of Malaya as an academic institution. So as a campus, we have the aspiration to offer quality tertiary education that would be under SDG 4 on quality education. But at the same time, University of Malaya is located within the capital city of Kuala Lumpur. It is a city campus. It is smack at the heart of the city. So in the context of water management, the SDG challenge that Water Warriors is mainly dealing with is actually SDG 6, looking into clean water and sanitation, and considering where is located geographically, localizing this in the context of the campus, we see our role in having a direct impact, and therefore the institutional responsibility to address SDG 6 for Kuala Lumpur and its nearby growth area, which we call the Klang Valley. Next. So the Klang Valley received most of its water supply from 3 main rivers that are located within Kuala Lumpur and the neighboring state of Selangor. So the 3 rivers are Klang River, Selangor River, and the Langat River. And the more non-urban area of Selangor River contributes about 60% of water supply to Klang Valley. So from a watershed perspective, we see that the issue of SDG is not only about SDG 6, in ensuring sufficient supply of clean water and sanitation to the urban area, but also to raise the sense of responsibility among the campus community and also Malaysians more broadly in conserving our sources of water, our rivers, lakes, and groundwater and aquifers. So in that sense, SDG 6 also relates to SDG 15 and SDG 14 in ensuring the conservation of ecosystem services, be it on land and underwater. And such conservation effort can only be done if we are, we have done, we ensure that we have sustainable communities with responsible habits in consumption and production, which relates to SDG 11 and SDG 12. That is where we try, we make sure that we reduce water consumption, we make sure that we do not pollute, that we make sure that we conduct, responsible and sustainable waste management, for example, that has a direct impact to the sustainability of our watershed. And also, we also need to raise awareness on the urban, suburban, rural connection of watershed management and our collective responsibility. So even though UM is located in an urban area of Kuala Lumpur, we need to realize how much our water is actually supplied from the suburban and the rural areas as well. Okay, next. So in the context of UM as a living lab, if we look at things from the perspective of a watershed address, what we do on campus are directly impacting 2 main watershed. One is the Klang River watershed. So if we have the lake here, it is located, it is connected to the 2 rivers, tributaries within the campus, and it is connected to the Klang River watershed. So we have a direct impact there. But also we are connected to the Selangor River watershed, where it provides 100% of water supply to the campus. So not many of the campus community knows this, and so we do have this sort of connection with the Selangor River, although geographically we are far away. Next. So due to this, as a living lab, most of our work with external communities are now focused on these 2 watersheds where we have a direct impact. So for the Selangor River watershed, we are part of the River of Life public outreach program. And this is a program that looks into the conservation of the Klang River. And in 2017 to 2020, the focus area was in the phase 5 area, in which the UM campus is located, and we were lucky to be a part of it. And we take this opportunity to thank Global Environment Center, who was in charge of this part of the RollPop program, in inviting us to contribute to the effort. Next. And in terms of Selangor, the Selangor River, we have been working closely with the downstream community of Mukim Pasangan, Kuala Selangor. If you know, it's known for the ecotourism activity, the Firefly ecotourism activity in Kampung Kuantan. And we have worked with the community to establish a community-based organization called Inspirasi Kawa. And I think some of you are familiar with them, where we work with them on watershed-related environmental education, advocacy, and editorism activities related to the Selangor River. I can hear that host saya tak dengar. Are you okay? All right. Okay, so over the years, Inspirasi Kawa has been invited to be, to give community perspective to various agencies in terms of the conservation of Selangor River. So it's really nice to have the sister living lab as well in the Selangor River watershed. Next. So in addition, we are also working with schools, and this is where Dr. Aisyah is, has recently joined us. So we want to see how is the work that we are doing in Water Warriors can actually help us to further enhance our work in contributing to STEM education in schools. Yeah. Next. And also due to our watershed perspective, we also invited to SDG related policy engagement activities, and this includes action plan on the conservation of fireflies in the Selangor River, as a focus group for the direction of the National Water Resource Management for the 12th Nation Plan, and very recently we were invited for a very specific SDG consultation meeting, specifically looking into integrated watershed management, which is SDG 6.5.1. So, so that is how we see, our role in terms of contributing to the SDG. Next. Yeah. So when we talk about the SDGs, there's another ranking that is connected to the SDG, which is the Times Higher Education University Impact Ranking. So UM has participated on this, and as a living lab, we are contributing to SDG 6, but we're also contributing to other SDGs that are connected to SDG 6 from the broader perspective that we mentioned just now. Okay, next. Right. So I have provided the bigger, the big picture on, the role as living lab and, looking at our contribution in terms of SDGs, but what actually do we do? How long do I have? Fazli?
You have about 20 to 30 minutes more.
Oh, okay, right. So this is basically, on the ground, what do we do on, in terms of our activities over the 7 years? So our approach is actually very inspired by, our exposure during our days under the research consortium, Asian-based integrated watershed management. So the idea was that usually when we talk about solutions, we always focus on the, either the institutional policy, regulation, and financial drivers of, the issue, which is what we, we can label as the software approach. Or we look into the scientific knowledge and technological intervention, which we call the hardware approach. But what the perspective that we use is, the engine of the software and the hardware being, continuously evolving and, and growing is really if, the community or, the campus has a strong hardware foundation. And this means voluntary social action driven by internal motivation now. And those internal motivation is actually driven by the community shared values. And it is, and so we like to work on the hardware together with the software and hardware, and we feel that this is a much more sustainable way in which we can move forward. So I will talk a bit first about our hardware, the hardware activities that we do, and then we will go into the hardware and software activities as a support to that. Okay, next. So this is the hardware approach. Okay, next. So one of the things that I think was fundamental in the kind of work that we do is to re-enchant the community with the community shared values. So sometimes when we look at the campus, we don't usually think that, there are much shared values that we can, that we can use to drive environmental or sustainability action. But in the case of Tasik Varsity, what we had done is we collected all the the history of the lake and how it was before. Not many people knew about it, and we created a video that actually capture what do we appreciate about the lake, and this was shown to the community, and it has created a lot of interest in terms of trying to bring back the lake to its original state. Next. And what we do after we created, the video, and also, having much more information about what are the values that is connected to our water bodies, we started doing hardware-based advocacy and stakeholder relationship, and it took us about a year to actually develop this kind of spirit of wanting to do something about the conservation of our water bodies. And in terms of the lake, the momentous moment was when our Deputy Vice Chancellor actually announced that, simply said, the lake needs to be fixed. So so that was and we received a lot of support after that in terms of other kind of solutions that we are suggesting. So the next, and another hardware activity that is important is reviving communal activity. So we always talk about gotong royong, but we are not only trying to do gotong royong, but we also relate it to the past, how we used to gotong royong and why can't we do it now, and to bring back the essence of the campus back to fore. So so we do gotong royong next, and also to bring the community back to loving our water bodies. So for example, we do a lot of recreational activities like kayaking, and make sure that they are also involved with doing a cleanup of the lake. We also bring fishing competition back into at the lake, and this has been very good in terms of creating support for lake conservation by the support staff in and also the fact that we bring back life back to the lake was having ducks back to the lake. That was significant in bringing a much more closer connection with the lake. Next. And this is one of the things that we we keep on doing from the beginning until today, which is hardware-oriented environmental or sustainability education and editourism program. So once you have all those materials that is related to hardware, it is easier for you to develop a value-based environmental education. So you talk about water management, but also you talk about the values and why it is important. So we have people coming, like schools, from local schools and also international schools requesting for this kind of exposure. And we're also quite popular with homeschoolers as well. Next. So these are some of our environmental education materials under our environmental education program, and also a number of interpretive materials that we have developed over time. Next. And finally, we also have the hardware-inspired citizen science. We were very inspired by the citizen science activity in Japan. We tried to bring it here. So basically, citizen science is citizen participation in scientific activity. So we at Water Warriors is interested in water quality monitoring, but with value-based interpretation of data. So one of the next. And one of the innovation that we have done is the Ecohot Index, in which we talk about water quality monitoring, but we also try to connect it with the symbol of the heart. So when we interpret the different parameters and looking at whether what is the state of the water body. We could also combine it with, whether the heart is full or the heart is broken. And then we try to put in the narrative, the hardware narrative to strengthen the point on what should be done to help the river or the lake. Next. And we have done this within and next. And what we are trying to do now is we are now working with Cardiff University and being supported by Academy Science Malaysia in trying to look at how can we expand this, sort of hardware approach to watershed conservation in terms of, citizen science and also interpretation more broadly to other parts of the watershed. Next. So other than the hardware, as we grow, we had to do a lot of hardware activities as well, which is, looking at the interventions based on science and technology. Next. So one of our earliest involvement in terms of, scientific research and technological development was under the revitalization of Varsity Lake. We were given the responsibility to conduct most of the, the scientific research relating to the project. Next. And we continued doing a bit of scientific research on river conservation and looking at the water quality and trying to convince the university to improve our effort in doing something about the conservation. Next. And one of the big effort that we do, a big project that we have done together with the development unit was to revitalize a stream that was quite neglected. And so there was a lot of, technological interventions that need to be done in terms of, trying to revitalize a small stream like this into something that, that people can appreciate and people can, sort of spend their time. And so that was what you call it, the combination of, hardware and hardware, in the sense that we try to contribute in terms of the effort. Next. And another big project that we were involved in is in terms of constructed wetland. This is where Dr. Rina, our landscape architect, was actually involved in as well, in helping us to work with the development unit in trying to improve the water flow into the lake. So this was a big project that requires a new expertise. So what we have done is we have developed wetland cells here so that the water that comes in will be purified before it goes into the lake. So this is the big area surrounding the lake that is nearby to the library. So next. And Dr. Rina has actually used her, her learning and teaching activities with her architectural students to provide ideas to the university on what can be done. So this is where Water Warriors activities is, start connect with, and with the kind of things that we teach in class as well. So. And they have given us a lot of creative ideas, and we now have developed a lot of new ideas about, about trying to revive the space. Next. And if you go to the lake area now, it has been called the Greenbelt, because it's not only the lake, but we also have the wetland and also the stream that is connected to the lake. And this is where, this combination of teaching and learning can be seen in terms of contributing to the kind of effort that we are doing. Next. So in addition to the conservation of water bodies, we are also given we were also being asked to look into the demand side of water management, which is to reduce water consumption and increase efficiency of water use. So this is where we have, very broad discussion with the development unit, and they will tell us, what are the issues that are in place, and we try to sort of help them gradually in terms of the different core areas that is of their concern. So this is where Dr. Fatia from Chemical Engineering started to join Water Warriors in looking at the technical aspect, because we needed an engineer to give us advice on, the much more technical aspects of water demand. Next. And one of the activities that, one of the core projects that we are doing now is on rainwater harvesting. So the development unit has a very basic rainwater harvesting, how do you call it, system that is being, placed at different parts of the campus. But what we try to do is trying to enhance the utilization of the rainwater harvester, and also to upgrade it into something that, and to put a bit more innovation in it. So this is one of the most sophisticated rainwater harvester that we have in the main mosque of the university that is located at the Faculty of Islamic Studies. So this rainwater harvester, you can use it for ablution as well. You can drink the water as well. So we have, different types of rainwater harvester within the campus. Next. And another innovation, another project that we do is Mr. Timble. This is a project in which we try to create our own water restrictor to reduce water flow around the campus. So we have worked with the Faculty of Engineering to produce it in-house, because it would be expensive for us to, buy it from outside, and that's what we do in terms of collaboration. And this has been quite successful in reducing some of the water consumption issues that we are facing. Next. Once you do all these different activities, and I think you get new ideas by working with different parties within the campus. One of the projects that we have recently started in the past, I think 2 years, was the Kisa plastic project. This is, trying to upcycle. What we do is we upcycle plastic waste into different kind of souvenirs. And some of the souvenirs, like this is a keychain that has the emblem in it, and it has become quite popular in terms of, it's not only not only a merchandise, but there's a very strong meaning behind it in terms of the value or the love for but also at the same time raise the issue of, plastic waste that is, quite widespread in terms of the kind of pollution that we have in our water bodies as well. Next. And being a living lab is not really only on the project that we do, but we also have a number of ongoing challenges as well. In we have flash floods in that is, always occurring, and the Water Warriors is also being called if this happens, and and how do we want to address it after the event happens. And then sometimes we have event-based issues as well, where maybe we have big events being conducted at the Greenbelt, and then there will be issues where people actually throw rubbish and then it goes into our water bodies. So we have to do something about it, and Water Warriors is being called as well. So it's not only our core project, but we also have to deal with all these ongoing projects as well. Next. So that was hardware and, looking at the heart, and then we look into, science and technology, but also at the same time, we try to make sure that we have, interventions in terms of creating a policy and guidelines to make sure that there's much more long-term commitment to this kind of effort. In terms of policy, I think the Tasik Varsity was, the revitalization of Tasik Varsity was one of the long-term policy, intervention that we had done before. The Tasik was not a top priority in UM, but now it has been considered as, one of the key area for conservation. And it's based on this idea of conservation that, other developments actually occur. So that sort of changed the paradigm in terms of, the role of the lake and how we could develop the central space of the UM campus. And we also, even though we don't do a lot of, concrete, we don't develop concrete policy documents, what we do is we always have continuous consultation with the development unit. And I think a lot of their decisions as well is influenced by the inputs that we give in terms of how we can make UM more sustainable in terms of water management. And we also help the development unit in terms of trying to get short and medium-term funding for water conservation-related projects. So if they want to apply for water conservation related, development projects, they will ask us to give advice in terms of the sustainability aspects, and we try to make it a bit more holistic in terms of, the execution as well. Next. And these are some of the guidelines that we have produced, a guideline for lake restoration, and we also contribute to guidelines on responsible construction practices for water bodies, environmental friendly policy for the development units BQ for contractors, because sometimes contractors, they do, their construction activities, but they don't actually think about what will happen in terms of how the wastewater is actually impacting to the water bodies within the campus. So we make sure that that is taken care of. And then we also have park codes now for Tasik Varsity. And we also develop, a number of educational materials as well. For example, for rainwater harvester, how can you use it well, and what can it be used for? Because not many people actually, they see the rainwater harvester, but they don't know what to do with it. So we try to provide guidelines in that sense as well. Next. Okay, I think I've talked a lot. So that is basically, what Water Warriors is more broadly. But what I want to proceed now is a brief sharing from our advisor and academic members. Definitely they have different perspective on how and why they join Water Warriors, and what are the activities that they would like to highlight in terms of our growth as a living lab so far. So I will now leave the screen to Prof, starting with Prof Halim as our overall advisor, followed by Rina, and Fatia, and also Aisha. Prof Halim, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Zida. Can you hear me? No?
Yes, Prof. Ali, we can hear you.
Yes, Prof. Ali.
We can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good day to everybody. Mine will be a short one. Don't worry. During my years.
Prof Halim, we can't hear you.
Yeah?
No, I can hear Prof. Ali.
Dr. Zida, can you hear me? How about the rest?
Yes, it's very clear. Yes, I can hear you, Prof. Halim, very clear.
How about Dr. Zida? Can you hear me? Zida?
She's not responding.
Not responding.
Yeah.
Okay, I just go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, Prof.
Just go ahead. Okay.
Yes.
What I was trying to say, during my years at the university, I never stop thinking of, how to get closer to the public, to be able to share with them
Can't hear you.
the knowledge about the environment, and of course, in a lingo that they can understand. Dr. Zia, you still can't hear me? The rest okay, yeah?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, Prof. Clear.
Okay. I remember during those days, we worked with DOE, Department of Environment. We came up with a module on river ecosystems, to conduct environmental camps with them on river ecosystem for school children, for school children. So it was really fun because those young kids, they do not realize that they are learning something. They just go for fun, but they learn a lot. That's, of course, they don't have to worry about exam, so they learn a lot. Yeah. So, but getting public to participate is something easier said than done. People always look at the university as having a thick walls, where which prevent people from going near to get advice. Yeah, so it is always the problem of perception of ivory tower. Yeah, so now we have water warriors, and I think water warriors has done a lot to shape the ivory tower image. We have been able to reach out to the public, to promote, to propagate sense of belonging, encourage public, promote citizen science, and all for the purpose of having a safe and sustainable environment to live in.
Here.
So thanks to the countries that we have learned from in the past, we learned from Scandinavian countries like Denmark especially. We learned from Japan, and now we are learning from Cardiff University, UK, on citizen science. So this all is for finding better ways to work with the public and to educate them. What we are doing in this project, river monitoring, river cleanup through gotong royong, water harvesting, a mini wetland model to treat wastewater from the faculties. I believe all this will have strong impacts on people because they could come and learn hands-on. That is very important. So in retrospect, what this group of young researchers is doing, this group of led by Dr. Zida, may look small. What they are doing may look small, but we have come a long way. Yeah, what we have achieved is invaluable, and never before we are so close to the community. Never before we have so much experience in working with the public. So, water warriors, all the best to you. I'm very proud to be part of you, although I'm retired. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
All right, Waalaikumsalam. So the next one, we would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Hazrina Hussein to share her views on this. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Fadli. Assalamualaikum. Hi, everyone. I'm Hazrina Hussein, based in the Faculty of Built Environment. In my background, I am interested in designing the outdoor environment, and my landscape architecture training background is something very much that covers a broad range of outdoor environments ranging from urban to rural. I joined the Water Warrior team just 4 years ago, and my role is to advise on the landscape aspects of water management and biodiversity. Here in we are blessed to have abundance of greens in the campus. It is a very good exposure for our students, especially the architecture students who I teach, to learn about the plant species and its functional value in the built environment. So joining the Water Warrior team will further enhance my contribution towards educating the campus residents and public towards river preservation, as well as promoting sense of ownership to the water bodies. So far, we have worked on 3 landscape proposals. The first one was a pilot study on sustainable urban drainage system. The objective was to transform this drain next to the main library to an ecological drainage system where there is a wetland. The purpose is to slow down the surface runoff directly to the river and flood mitigation through the use of landscape. The second proposal involved a detention pond in the park in The objective was to transform this detention pond into an into a multi-use amenity, providing recreation, aesthetic value, wildlife habitat, along with flood control, again through the use of landscape. And the more recent project is the constructed wetland and streams at the Greenbelt. This is a continuation project from main library's sustainable urban drainage system to increase the water level and to provide additional greens and recreational spaces for the campus community. Other universities can also have their own Water Warriors team in the campus, close collaboration with their own development and maintenance unit, their research centers, and also a variety of multi-stakeholders can promote teaching, learning, and also research opportunities. I think that's all from me, I guess. Back to you again, Dr. Zida or Fadli. Thank you for listening.
Okay. I guess we go to Fatia now.
Hi. Assalamualaikum. Salam sejahtera everyone. My name is Fatia Muhammad Zuki. I am a senior lecturer from Chemical Engineering, Universiti Malaya. As a lecturer, my expertise is more on separation technology, especially membrane filtration technology. I also do environmental sustainability works, projects, and environmental safety and risk assessment. Actually, I first met Zida and Affan since 2013. It was actually introduced by Prof. Nik Mariam during JSPS Symposium at Kyoto, Japan in 2013. And then from there, back to UM. Okay, I first joined the Zida team's programs. Actually, that was a lake cleaning from purifications in 2013. And then after that, I was actively joined Water Warriors programs organized by UMCAS at that time. Then in 2016, I was officially invited by Dr. Zida to join Water Warriors. My role in Water Warriors is more on technical as a co-researcher, and then so I actually give more helps in terms of technical and analysis parts. So by joining Water Warriors team, actually gave me a great opportunity to get more knowledge, get together with community, and at the same time I can actually contribute more, especially on water quality analysis and any technical part in any projects in by Water Warriors. So actually the first, not first, but current project by my students actually is rainwater harvesting system, actually located in API MOS. What we have done is we actually attach the existing rainwater harvesting system with our membrane filtration cartridge, and then actually it is replacing the old water filter to produce higher quality of water, actually the higher quality of the harvested rainwater. So after comparing the results, we can the water quality is actually much better, and the water is now safe to drink. Okay, because before this it only used adduction only, but now actually it's the quality is actually able for us to drink. All right. So after that, in the meantime, one of my master students project, actually we are doing the risk assessment and management of all the rainwater harvesting tanks at entire UM. And actually these projects actually give more information to help JPPHB or water, the UM stakeholders to manage the total of 37 rainwater harvesting tanks at the entire UM. Okay, so in the same time, the latest project is actually the risk assessment at the man-made wetland development and risk management as well. So this project is important, especially on the environmental sustainability, not only for the water, but also cater for soil conditions, landslide, gradient, types of plants, and water flow rate, and etc. So the most important from the wetland projects, the water is now well managed, filtration, rainwater is now filtered and into clean water. So the risk mostly came from development process at early stage of the construction. Actually, the overflow and the landslide during the construction of the mainstream. So main purpose of the stream is to convert our rainwater into clean filtered water before entering Sungai Pantai River. So this help the filtered water will be enter the wetland stream before entering varsity lakes. So that's all from my part. Inshallah will be continued in future soon. Thanks for listening. Bye. Wassalam.
Okay. Thank you, Fatia. So now we go to Aisha.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. I'm Aisyah. Pleasure to be in this webinar. I hope everyone is doing fine, taking good care of yourself during this pandemic. Alright, as in my bio, as what Dr. Zida said, I'm the newest member of Water Warriors. Right, but actually in terms of environmental conservation activities in the university, actually I start my journey as just being a volunteer to one of university's club at around 2009 and 2010, and at that time the club is quite young. All right, we do car boot sale and the Earth Hour initiatives and so on. So why I just want to tell you why I joined this sort of environmental conservation activities is that actually I was inspired by my lecturers during my degree and through courses such as environmental philosophy, environmental ethics, environmental management, and some courses in the Institute of Biological Science. Actually, Prof. Halim was one of my lecturers during my degree, right? And he has inspired a lot of students in joining environmental conservation activities. And now Dr. Zida call me again to join Water Warriors, and Water Warriors has inspired me to go to the next level from just a student volunteer and now within my capacity as an educator at the university. By the way, I'm from Department of Science and Technology Studies, Faculty of Science, same with Dr. Zida. So I would like to transform my knowledge and skills into something meaningful to the community, starting from Water Warriors and then to the community. Inshallah, God willing, we will explore the works that Water Warriors has done in the university in terms of the place-based education, all right, in terms of water conservation activities to school around Petaling, inshallah. My field of study during my degree, my PhD is critical thinking. So I keen to explore various type of pedagogies on how to improve or the performance of students in terms of STEM. All right. So we would like to explore the place-based education in school, inshallah, soon. So actually, a little bit of about this type of approach is that this approach combined experience learning and deep learning, and actually it is interdiscipline kind of learning. So it use students on own space, and during this pandemic we cannot go outside much, so they will use their own territory around the school, right? So this is different from conventional text and classroom based education. So this type of learning will promotes learning in terms of the uniqueness, history and environment and culture of that place, and in this project, the school itself. Right. So I try to do my best, right? Inspire people around me. So my point is that actually, whether we realize it or not, we all have obligation, our own obligation towards environment. And now my position as educator in the university, my works revolve around university and schools formally, but you outside there as the leader of your own unit, your organization, you have the power to inspire your followers, your friends, the people around you to do wonders to the environment. So don't stop inspiring, be it through social media or whatever channel. Don't stop inspire people. So I think that's all. It's from the inspirational my lecturer has inspired me, and I would like to give the inspiration to the community, inshallah, soon. I think that's all from me. Back to Dr. Zida or Fazli. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much to all our to Prof. Halim, our advisor, and also to all our researchers, Rina, Fatia, and Aisha for the sharing. So the reason for the sharing is to show you the different perspective and the experiences from different team members, and how they find water warriors is contributing to their work, and also how they can contribute to the living lab itself. Now, I guess is the highlight of the webinar in a sense, because we are going to have a Q&A with the founders of Water Warriors, which is Affan and Asiah. They will be, coordinating the Q&A session, and I will leave the session to them now.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Asiah. I'm one of the project officer for Water Warriors. First, thank you, Dr. Zida, Dr. Fatia, Dr. Aisyah, Dr. Hazrina, and Prof. Halim for the presentation. I see there's a few comments or suggestions in the comment section. First is by Prof. CP, who said that perhaps since there are many cafes in the campus and they release wastewater directly to the drainage. And I think Affan has a response to this, so I will direct this to him.
Hi everyone. Okay, I'm Affan. So to respond Prof. CP's questions, actually currently we are working together with JPPHB to solve that issues. We already started in faculty of economy. So basically the wastewater from economy is being, first of all, the water is going to be filtered by oil and grease trap and then channel into the sewerage system. So after we discuss with JPPHB, they are planning to do phases. So basically we are going to sort of like eco zone lah, to solve these wastewater issues. All right.
Okay, thank you, Affan. The next is by Prof. Nick, who says that perhaps we can now extend beyond UM's border, and perhaps especially in terms of small recreation lakes development, since there are many other university campus and Cotton Estate who has their own lakes, so perhaps we can offer something more holistic. And I open this question to all the Water Warriors members who would like to answer this question or suggestion.
Okay.
Dr. Zida or Affan or Prof. Halim?
Okay. Yes, thank you, Prof. Nick. So basically for this year and for in the future, we are currently working with MBPJ, looking into lake conservation in the, for example, in Taman Aman, punya Tasik. So we are working together with MBPJ. That's for start. So if there's other university or other development areas that needs our help to come in, we love to help, to share a little bit our knowledge to them. All right, Dr. Zida, you want to add something?
Thank you, Prof. Nick, for the comments and suggestion. I guess this is the challenge that we are, not the challenge, but I think the opportunity as well that we are seeing on how we can extend the work that we are doing to the larger community. Of course, we have done a lot of work in Mukim Pasangan in terms of the collaboration that we have there. But I think one of the things the reason why we invited Dr. Aisyah as well in the team is actually to see how we can actually expand the environmental education activities that we have done in campus. So schools come into the campus now, but now how do we actually use the materials that we have developed to actually improve the kind of interest that students have in terms of STEM subjects, trying to look into science education in a much more holistic manner. So not only looking at it in terms of the content, but also in terms of the hardware behind why we do science. So that is one way in which we are looking at it, and we are actually applying for UMSLLS grant to look at how we can expand this in schools. But that is one, and I think Affan has talked about the work that we're doing in PJ. So probably the other members might have some things to add as well.
No? Okay.
Okay. And just to add, we have been actually called to contribute to some, policy platforms as well, even though we are doing things on campus. But I think, our watershed perspective actually provides some insights that is also policy relevant. So we are, yeah, there are many opportunities out there, and we're looking forward to how we can actually use, and especially the new space that we have at Rumah Nombor 2. So we can do a lot of workshops there, and there's a lot of opportunity to move forward. Yeah.
Okay. So there's another question by Puan or Cik Rayu, sorry.
Yeah.
And she said, how do you get UM students to be so passionate and istiqamah with this initiative? Since most of her student complains about burnout. So, Dr. Aisyah, do you want to try to answer this? Or Dr. Zida or Affan?
Well, Asiah, why don't you, I think you have a lot of, I think you have good perspective on that. Why don't you share your,
Affan, you do it first.
Asiah first, go.
Affan, why don't you answer first?
Okay, so how do you get EM students passionate? So, and istiqamah is meaning that sustain. I think the first step actually is the heart, the passion is. So that's what we need to capture. I think we are. I'm quite blessed that we have Dr. Zida's and team who really supports their students doing something like this, because some yeah because basically it's more like passion. Yep.
I can add on to that. I feel that having a good mentor is also important for the students. Like having a mentor, good mentor like Dr. Zida at that time, Dr. Sakai, Prof. Halim, who was able to sort of guide us on how to do things and sort of like provide answers when we have questions, or provides like menenangkan, like when you have concerns and things like that. So I think having a good mentor is important.
Yes.
I just want to add something. Okay. Fatia, go on.
Oh, I have something to add as well, because in terms of istiqamah and everything, right? It's not easy, because this is actually long-term activities. So it depends on the students who already joined at the first times, and then how the students can actually invite their friends to join. And then the most important thing as well, the lecturers must do their role to always actually try to give more support and motivation during the lecture as well. So part of it, I did some in my class. So actually, it's work.
After all, it's volunteer work. So we cannot force anybody, everybody to join. I mean, unless it comes from the heart, right? So
Yes.
for my case, because I'm teaching architecture students, and I embedded all the my activities in the class to be outdoor. And one of the activities is must visit Tasik Varsity, wetland, every inch of the campus that has green, including Rimba Ilmu, because some of them they don't even know where Rimba Ilmu is. So we must educate them, and from there, hopefully, they will be interested in be part of the program, I guess.
Halim?
Prof. Halim, do you have any last or like any suggestions on how other lecturers could sort of, try to make another water warriors in their own campus?
Prof. Hadim, your mic
Yep,
is mute.
unmute.
Sorry. I think most other universities have their own equivalent of water warriors. I do not know, but you know, talking about how to you know, create interest, motivate the students. You know, I think it all boils down to early education. You know, early exposure, and that's why I think education is very important. We should go to grassroots, to schools. I remember, you know, when we were doing the environment camp in Terengganu, you know, many years back, and we left the place, we forgot all about the place. But one day, one student at the Faculty of Science came to see me, Prof, I bit emotional to think about this now. I came to do science in this faculty because of you many years back when you were in Terengganu, you know. So that really made me emotional, you know. So it's something like that. So they, you know, it's important. Early exposure is very important. I'm sure a lot of people out there, they do not know, they don't get the right match. Maybe they have interest, but you need to have right connection, you know, to uh, to let them see something that can actually you know, strike back, you know, and motivate them, you know. Okay, I think that's all my comment is.
Yeah. I just want to add a bit of perspective, Asiah. And I think you know, you know, in terms of students who are passionate, they could be the sort of note for other students actually. And I think the example of Affan and Asiah, and also, you know, the other grassroots movement that we had before, they were very passionate, and but they also need nurturing as well from, you know, other academic staff as well, in order for them to expand what they do, because they might be interested but they may not have the you know, the institutional support to actualize what they are inspired to do. So we realize that this partnership between, you know, very passionate students with passionate lecturers, team of lecturers, I think it's quite a good recipe in terms of them motivating each other, in terms of actualizing, you know, the kind of vision that they have about campus sustainability. So for us, I think this is what we have experienced in Water Warriors, and I think the other grassroots movement like the Rimba Project and also the Zero Waste Campaign, I think that is the kind of dynamics that is needed, and then the initiative can grow when you have more staff, passionate staff joining in, and then there's more passionate students coming in, and then you can expand the initiative to other areas as well. So at least that is my experience, you know, when I was doing this coordinating work in the past. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone has any additional questions?
I have
You
one question.
can. Okay.
All right. Okay. For Water Warrior projects, Dr. Zid, Affan just now mentioned about the future projects with MBPJ. At this near future is going to be, roll out. So how about the future plan in terms of the methodological, in terms of the tools wise? Either you are going to, to replicate or to expand or to upgrade a new, types of methods, because you are going to use it at outside of maybe the quality of the water quality requirement are different. If you're going outside in a river of Slang, for example, we have to follow the WKI. So and WKI, I heard, is going to be to be changed. So maybe it's an interesting, things to explore in the future, or maybe will be directly to the community with the government. So, and of course, researchers will be the middle person to connect between the community and also for the government. So it is going to create an impact, positive impact in the future. So in terms of Dr. Aisyah with the policy, so I think it's a good way to connect with the other, with this Water Warrior project, the future project. So maybe, yeah, maybe Dr. Zid can share with us what are the future plans in terms of the methods, not all the projects, because we have a lot of projects and a lot of projects and a lot of projects are going to be done. So yeah,
Right.
that's all.
Thank you, Azizi, for the question. Affan, do you want to respond to that, or do you want me to go first?
Okay, Dr. Zida, you can go first.
I guess one of the things that we were inspired when we started the Hardware project in Japan was, this approach of citizen science, where, citizens actually participate in scientific activities and using that knowledge to help the community and also the government in terms of, conserving the water bodies that is in their areas. So one of the projects that we are doing is actually trying to expand the work that we do in terms of citizen science from a hardware approach. And that is where we have collaborated with Cardiff University in looking at place-based method, because we use hardware, but actually there is already existing method out there, which is much more academic, that is called place-based method. And that is one way to approach this issue of values, and all that, and to connect it to scientific knowledge. So we are actually working with partners from Cardiff University in trying to look into how we can use the Ecohot Index that we have introduced just now in terms of creating, a much more meaningful citizen science program that is, rather than just crowdsourcing data for citizen science, but also to connect it to the meaning of the place. So that's what actually Affan is doing now with the place-based citizen science program. We are testing it in, the Sungai Klang watershed and also the Selangor River watershed. We are doing it at a very small scale, but we hope if there is potential, that is something that we can deploy in a bigger scale in the future. So that is one activity that we do in terms of citizen science and also place-based method in terms of bigger deployment. Affan, do you want to add anything?
Regarding the methods, I think the core of the Water Warrior is actually the concept for the hardware. So we are trying to replicate that kind of concept hardware. So, and also it's different based on the locations. So we need to look into a base place situation. So it's not necessary that what we are doing in UM can be replicated 100% to other places. Sometimes we need to take account the surrounding, the management of the place. So it's a learning process for us. Yeah. Yeah.
And also another area that we find that there is potential is environmental education and also on science communication and developing interpretive materials. I think Asiah can talk a bit about that in terms of creating interpretation materials that is related to the values of the place. So that is one. In other places you have museums, you have botanical gardens with a lot of interpretive materials, but that is one thing that we have done a lot in UM and what we think can be expanded further in the future. So I think Asiah, you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, actually one of my current project right now is on place-based interpretation as a sustainability communication strategy. And we look about the approach is also called place-based, where we try to see how we can make communication more locally relevant. How do you make it more place? what's the culture like? What's the place meaning? How do you get people to become more attached to a place? How do you make them have a higher sense of belonging or sense of ownership towards a place? So there are methods that you can use to do that. And also there are methods you can use to present that in terms of communication, either through signages or when you're giving talks. So yeah. Anyone wants to ask any more questions before we end at 12:30?
Yeah, I have one thing to add, especially on the water sustainability, because I'm now teaching the environmental, actually sustainability in engineering. So most of the projects by the governments and also outside NGOs, they have their plan, right? From the plan, they actually designing the whole projects. So this is most important because we actually can helps in terms of how we can manage water sustainability in their engineering designs. So this becomes very important. So in terms of actually development of any engineering works, but in the same time, we look at the water sustainability and management as well. Thank you.
Okay, any last words maybe before we end? From Dr. Zida or Dr. Hazrina or Dr. Aisyah?
Maybe anyone out there who wants to ask questions?
Yeah.
Anyone? You can type the message. You can type the questions on the chat, or you can turn on your mic and chat directly with us. Any students, UM students?
No questions.
Or other university students or okay. If not, let's have like a short last words maybe. Okay, so there's a question here. What is the biggest bottleneck in getting Malaysians to engage in sustainability related education? So the biggest challenges, right? Okay.
Yeah.
To engage.
What is the challenge? For me, I think from the perspective, from the hardware perspective, what we have, what I have, sort of experienced. Sometimes, you may have students who, take courses in environmental management, for example, but they are not, passionate enough to create, they're not interested to volunteer, or they're not interested to, how do you call it, participate in actual, solutions on the ground. So that is probably a reflection of, the quality of the content of the kind of education that we are providing in our curriculum. We are just providing the content, but we are not, sort of connecting it to the meaning on why they have to learn science. So why do they have to know about biodiversity? Why, and really to have that inspiring dimension to education in terms of, their role in creating change as the future generation in sustainable development. So that is the reason why we feel that, there are opportunities for us to improve the STEM content in schools. Rather than just learning about hydrology or learning about, water quality, probably what we can do is to add the meaning on why the water quality is important. And one of the ways in which you can do that is to connect that to the water quality of their immediate environment. And that is the kind of thing that we are doing under Water Warriors. And, that is something that we would like to test in terms of, contributing to the quality of STEM education in schools. Yeah, so that is, just my 2 cents to that question.
Dr. Fatia, Dr. Hazrina, you want to add on to that? No, okay. Affan?
No.
Prof. Halim, Dr. Aisyah?
Maybe one thing is very important because now we have a social media, right? So it's actually a new platform, and this is the biggest platform for us to actually gain the awareness. So this is the most important thing, the awareness first, and then it's become knowledge. Sometimes it's knowledge comes first and awareness comes second. So it's actually very related, both of them. So this is actually everybody's role to actually participate and contribute wherever they are. Just use social media is the best way and the fastest way and the easiest way to actually gain awareness among the Malaysians. I think that is.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Okay. It's actually, let me share again from my personal experience why I joined this sort of environmental conservation activities. Okay, I said just now it's from courses that I took during my degree. So actually, yes, Dr. Zida said it is based on the content of the curriculum, content of the learning, and it based on the approach that the lecturer did. I mean, towards the student. Okay, at the end, the lecturer able to make student ask themselves, what is the purpose of my existence in this earth, or at least in the university? What can I do besides learning theories in class? What can I do for the community, starting from the university? And after that, um, the inspirational works has been going on until the student become something. Okay, bila dah tua, something like that. So, inspiration and purpose of life is very, very important, especially in education, and also the support from the principal, of course, the teachers and people around you. I think that is the challenges, the support. That's all.
Okay. Affan or Prof. Halim, you want to add on? Or shall we close?
Nothing. Most probably we can close it. Yeah. It's almost 12:30.
All right.
Great.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, just
Thank
for a
you.
quick one, I would like to thank you, Dr. Associate Professor Dr. Zida Fatima Muhammad and her team from Water Warriors for such an inspiring and informative session. Just for a quick one, can we switch on your video so that we can have a quick snapshot of the photos for our record? Thank you. Okay, everyone's ready?
Okay.
All right.
Smile.
In a count of 3, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Fazli.
So with that, on behalf of Universiti Malaya and the Secretariat, we'd like to thank each and every one of you here for taking your time to attend our second sustainability webinar series. I'm sure, inshallah, we have more series in store for you to cover interesting sustainability topics from the experience of our Living Labs Campus Sustainability-Driven Action Research projects. We'll keep you posted. Don't forget to follow our Facebook page and Instagram, as well as our YouTube channel at UM Sustainability. Right.
All right. Thank you so much, Fazli. Thank you so much for Secretariat.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Hi, Vash. All right. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
think we missed one question by Full-Fledged.